The defense is expected to continue poking holes in the testimony of Sergeant Batho Mogola in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, which is being heard in the High Court in Pretoria this morning. Yesterday, Mogola testified about the arrest of accused number one, Muzi Sibiya. She detailed the discovery of ammunition and a magazine at Sibiya's residence. Now, Sibiya was arrested in Tembisa back in May 2020 and allegedly made a confession regarding the murder of the soccer star. Mnisi is part of our team who's been in court for days now watching the story. He joins us now from our studios in Randburg, though, for an update of what's happened. Great to see you as always, Linda. Perhaps let's just begin with just the significance of these items being discovered, ammunition and a magazine. Are we finding that the story is crystallizing here around whether or not these confessions by accused number 1 and 2 were in fact made voluntarily?
The importance of this kind of evidence, Ayanda, seems to paint a picture around what happened around the time that Muzi Sibiya as well as Bongani Ntanzi made those confessions. And the police officers who are now testifying are basically detailing how they came to arrest the accused and how they subsequently made, those confession statements. You speak now about Muzi Sibiya and the discovery of ammunition. You remember that he was arrested in May 2020, the 30th of May 2020, and on the same day made his first confession statement. Now, it's important to note that already these people were wanted. There were known suspects that they may be involved in the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. So a number of cases were being investigated against them, including, the case of dealing in drugs, for example, with Muzi Sibiya, but also the Senzo Meyiwa case. But when ammunition was then discovered in his property, then he was arrested for that as well, and subsequently the investigations continued. Something that the defense says is an unlawful arrest, because if you look at it, they were only arrested and charged with Senzo Meyiwa's murder just 5 months down the line when they had already made these confession statements. So what the state here is trying to prove is that there was nothing untoward about the process of making those confession statements as required by the Criminal Procedure Act as well as the Constitution of South Africa.
There's also talks about a sweater that Muzi Sibiya was actually wearing and whether or not it correlates with what other witnesses had identified on one of the accused or one of the suspects the day that Meyiwa was killed.
Yeah, in fact, it was Bongani Ntanzi who's accused number 2. You'll remember that he's the alleged intruder who was wearing a hoodie on the night that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. So in the early days of the investigations, after he had also been arrested on a Nongoma murder case, which is separate from the Senzo Meyiwa case, what the police then did was they called him in on the 17th of June, this is the day after he was arrested, to question him about Senzo Meyiwa's murder. And he said, well, he wasn't involved. In fact, on the day that he was arrested, on the day that it happened rather, he was at work. So the following day they took him to his employer, who then said, well, he was not. According to our records, he was not at work. So from that point onwards, they then decided to go to Bukeng, where he lived, to search for that particular hoodie. And it was after the failed investigations of the failed alibi that he decided, according to the state, that he would then tell the lead investigators about his alleged involvement in the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. And that's how the confession then came about. The first confession, that is. The second confession was then made before a magistrate.
Sure. This is all very important to try and contextualize. We're still within this trial within a trial, right?
Yeah.
Take us through what the possible permutations are if it is found that the confessions themselves weren't made voluntarily and can't be admitted into the case itself. Does that mark the end of the trial?
Absolutely not.
Right.
Remember, it's just a piece of the puzzle in the main trial. So it would definitely be a setback for the state, which really has the onus to prove beyond reasonable doubt that these are the guys that actually killed Senzo Meyiwa. And it's important, actually, you speak about contextualizing what these confession statements mean, even if they are admitted as evidence into the main trial. Because if you look at it, their confession statements are only admissible to the person who made them. Even if, for example, in the confession statement, let's say Bongani Ntanzi mentions everybody else and their alleged involvement, that evidence cannot be used against the person that is mentioned in the confession statement, but can only, be used against the deponent, the person that made the alleged confession. So if they are admitted in the main trial, they just form a piece of the puzzle, and the state still has to continue proving the rest of the evidence.
Yeah, paints a picture of us us being a long way till the end. Linda Mnisi, for now, thanks very much indeed for coming in and giving us that update. Linda Mnisi, watching developments in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, of course, which continues in the High Court in Pretoria today.